pumped for today. We are talking all things email marketing, and you have been the driving force behind our email marketing initiatives over the last 4 or 5 years. And we're going to sort of unravel that a little bit today and share some experience. Super pumped. So why are we here? We're talking email marketing, Gabs.
Yes, we are.
Is it an effective tool still?
Yes, definitely. And I think a lot of people think that it is a marketing initiative that has sort of died off, but definitely not. It is something that is still super, super powerful. If we have a look at some of the stats that we've got here, you can see that, like I said, it's still a very powerful marketing tool. So the first stat is related to return on investment with your email marketing. So sort of with every dollar you spend, you can expect a $42 return on investment.
That's massive. That's like pretty disproportionate in terms of the output from that.
Yeah, 100%. And the actual budget in terms of financial budget that goes into email marketing is quite minimal compared to your other your other marketing initiatives that you can do. So it is a really cost-effective way to sort of market your business. The second one is obviously 64% of small businesses are using email marketing to reach their customers. So people are still using this, which is awesome to see. And then the final one, which is a really cool stat to go into because it sort of leads us into a couple of points that we'll talk about today in our webinar, is just around the most effective strategies for your email marketing campaign. So a lot of it comes down to subscriber segmentation, which leads into those personalized messages that you are sending people. And another one, which is a huge one for us, that's really saved us a bunch of time and effort, is just email automation. So switching it on and forgetting about it pretty much.
Yep. We're gonna show you an example of that. So Gabs, if we're starting out, we want to send some emails promoting a specific service or business. We need one small thing, which is a database. How does one go about building a database?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different methods that you can go into with building a database, but a couple of ways that we really sort of favorite and we find the most successful are a couple of easy ones. So the first one would be just connecting your database to the email inquiries that you get through your website. So basically how it would work is depending on the different types of inquiries that you've got on your website. So the image here you can see is just our basic contact page on our site. We also have a bit more of an in-depth form as well. So that also leads into our database. But as soon as someone sort of inquires, they automatically go into our database. So it's a quick and easy way to get people to sort of get into your database. The other option you've got is, which you'll see on a lot of websites, is to do a subscribe now footer or a CTA that pops up so that people can subscribe to your newsletter as well. So my view on that has always been like, just give away something of extreme value, like just give it away free of charge, because people are so fiercely protective of their information. They will not part with their email address easily. So you really need to dangle a good carrot in front of them. And so I guess one thing to note is there is this small thing called the Australian Spam Act out in 2003, and it states that you must have explicit or implied consent. So explicit would be someone physically opting in. Like, so in this form, there's a checkbox that says, yes, I would like to hear more from you around that. Or implied consent, like that's a little bit grayer. It's a tricky one. It's not always just them being a customer is that implied consent. So you sort of need to navigate that a little bit carefully. But they're the overarching sort of concepts there in terms of who you can reach. The next strategy that we really love and which has been super successful for us is just meta ads and downloadable PDFs. So like you were saying, you want to give people a bunch of value, and everyone loves sort of a top tips PDF, something that's going to give them a whole bunch of information. So what we've done is we have created a bunch of PDFs that we advertise through our meta ads. And basically what they need to do is they need to supply their details. So first name, last name, email. They get a copy of the PDF, and then they go into your database as well. So this strategy here has allowed our database to grow exponentially over the last 12 months. So we usually get about 500 downloads a month. That's a really good month, but on average, 500 downloads a month. So there's 500 people going straight into your database. So a really quick way to be able to grow your database.
That's cool. Yeah. So popping up in Facebook or Insta feed, they actually provide some great tools to be able to link those and make the input of that information super seamless. So loving that. What's this last point here?
Yeah, just making sure that your clients are in your database as well. So a couple of reasons why. It keeps them super engaged with your business. It's an opportunity for you to promote your products or services or anything new that you've added to your wheelhouse to people that already trust you, to people that are already part of your service offering, or they've bought from you previously. So it's a really easy and great way to stay front of mind with the clients that you've already formed those relationships with.
Yeah, but don't abuse it. Don't and that's like the really tricky thing here is like everyone's trying to like sell something or flog something, and it's sort of like you need to be very, very selective in terms of when you touch that database and then how you go about doing that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've got the database, we've got a message. What can we do to skyrocket our open rates? Because we've got these inboxes that are just flooded with information. How do we stand out from the crowd? And there were a couple of sort of just little interesting stats here. You want to just run us through those, like open rate?
And the click-through rate? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what an open rate is people actually opening your email. So whether it's on their desktop or their mobile. So on average, a good open rate is about 20% here in Australia. And then the general average click-through rate. So that means that someone's actually read through your email and they've clicked on one of your CTAs and they've gone to your website, or they've gone to a Zoom link, for example.
Yeah.
And it's actually only 2.3%. So what that really tells us is it's hard to get people to click through in your email. So that's why it is so, so important. We'll go through this in a minute to ensure that your content is what people are wanting to read and it's not too overwhelming as well.
3 things to remember, Gabs. What are some broad principles here to make sure open rates are as high as they can be?
Yeah. So the 3 things we like to follow is quality. So like you mentioned earlier, people don't give up their information easily these days. Like it's really tough for people to pass on their email address simply because they don't want to be bombarded with junk, basically. So making sure the quality of your emails are top notch. So what that means is just making sure the value that you are providing them in your emails is going to make them want to stay on your database. And then also making sure that the quality is sort of high quality content. You don't want to be sending emails with a bunch of grammatical errors where buttons don't link off and things like that. So just the general quality of your emails needs to be really, really high. The next point is relevance. So just making sure that you're sending content to your database or your target audience that they want to read. So a really key thing for this is just making sure that you do your research when it comes to the type of content that you're going to be sending your database. So there's different ways that you can do this research. So a couple of ways that we've done it is having a look at the analytics of our email campaigns that we send out. So we have a look and see what has really garnered attention, what's been clicked on and things like that. Another way that I find a couple of businesses do these days is actually ask their database what they want to see. So you'll get some really honest feedback from people in terms of what they want to know about. So for example, like if you're an accounting firm, people might want to see like the latest news that would affect them. Or they might want a budget sheet that you can provide them. A budget sheet provides a bunch of value to someone. So just remember as well, people will unsubscribe as quickly as they subscribed if your content isn't valuable. So you've got to make sure that the stuff you're sending is relevant to your target audience, but also to your business as well.
Yep. Sorry, you go. Carry on.
And then the final one is obviously the quantity. So figure out how often you need to be communicating with your database. So for some businesses, 2 to 3 emails a week is what works for them. And I find that that's mostly your e-com sites who are promoting sales, or they're promoting their newest product and things like that. And it's kind of expected for an e-com site to sort of be sending that many emails. Whereas for other businesses, which are like your service-based businesses, 1 to 2 per month is kind of the sweet spot. So again, it kind of depends if you are covering off on the first 2 points as well. So we don't want to be sending a bunch of content or a bunch of emails just for the sake of sending emails if the quality is not great. And if we're sending stuff that's not really relevant, then you're going to get a whole bunch of unsubscribes.
Yeah. So when we were promoting this webinar, and we'll just talk about this very briefly because it is relevant to the discussion. Gabrielle was very clever last week, and I think if everyone's on here, they probably received a copy of that email. The subject line said, hey, and then you deliberately put in the brackets, percentage, first name, percentage, close bracket. I can't remember the exact subject line, but it included that syntax in there, right?
Yeah.
And it's like at a glance, it looked like we'd actually made a mistake. And I originally glanced at it, and I was like, oh no, it's gone out. It wasn't until you actually open the email that it said, hey John, gotcha, our skyrocket, our open rate just skyrocketed. And we actually went and did some analysis on that. And the open rate was like just massive compared to all previous campaigns. Yeah. And then what actually happened, because I had my email address was the reply to email address. I got about 4 or 5 emails saying, hey mate, you stuffed up. And I was like, oh, they hadn't read the body of the email and didn't get the full context of it. But the statistics said something completely different in the fact that we got open rates, we got a bunch of registrations. The unsubscribes weren't massive as well, or disproportionate to previous campaigns. So, in short, it's really interesting, isn't it? And there's just so many variables in there. So that's probably a good lead in into what makes a great email. So you want to talk about subject line?
Yeah, so obviously that subject line was a little bit polarizing, and it was a risk. And you know what, like John said, we got some people who sort of didn't get it, but the people who got it appreciated the whole thought process behind it. So I was pretty happy in the end with how it turned out. But the subject line is so important when it comes to your emails. So it needs to be catchy. It needs to stand out from the rubbish that everyone is sending. Yep. So a way that I do that is adding emojis to the subject line, because everyone loves an emoji, obviously. And another thing to keep in mind is keep it short, because if you have a huge long subject line, it's going to get cut off and people aren't going to read the whole thing. So the subject line, in a sense, is the first impression that you're sending people. So it's critical, because first impressions matter. It's critical that you sort of get the subject line, nail it on the head pretty much.
Cool.
So then when we actually go into the email itself, a couple of things that you really need to be wary of is just imagery and brand. So across every marketing sort of activity that you do, you want to make sure that it's matching your brand guidelines, so that if someone opens your email and they click through to your website, they can see it's from the same company. You don't want to mix match your branding on your emails compared to what your website looks like. A punchy banner image, because that's the first thing that people are going to see when they open up your email. So making sure that it stands out and gives a little bit of information.
We got animated ones in ours, I think, as well, haven't we?
Yeah. A lot of our emails have an animated banner image, and that's all super simple to set up and super easy to do, but makes such a huge difference. Another thing is just having graphics throughout your email. So making sure that it's super, super engaging. You haven't got huge bodies of text, and I'll go into this in a minute, but huge bodies of text. You want to have some really cool imagery in there to keep people scrolling. Another really cool thing that we add to our EDMs is our Instagram feed. So we're quite active on our Instagram. So it's just another point to show people how they can sort of get in contact with us or see what we're up to as well. So having that Instagram feed is really cool. And then finally, just your branded email signature. So you want to make sure that you close the email nicely rather than just like a "Thanks, John." We've got an actual branded graphic. So with contact information, with a picture of John, so that everyone knows who's actually sent the email. And then the actual content, so the copy and things like that. So the pre-header as well as the subject line is a great way to boost your email open rates. And that's another reason why you don't want to create super, super long subject lines. So when someone has a look at your email, let's just say on desktop, if your subject line is this big, you've then got this much room to do a pre-header text, sort of to entice them more to open up your email. So the subject line that we were just talking about before when I sent the initial sort of promo for this webinar. So that was my subject line. And then my pre-header text was, I think it was something like, "Don't let this happen to you." So it sort of like leads into the whole point of the email in a sense.
Nice.
And then obviously content that provides tons of value. You want to give things away for free, basically. And it's really easy to do that. So it's through PDFs, it's through Excel spreadsheets, whatever sort of you can produce that matches your business, that's going to provide value to your subscribers. You want to plug that in pretty much all of your emails.
Cool.
Short and punchy. No one wants to read an email for 45 minutes. So the idea is the email is the intro into the subject, and then you would have a link off to a blog that goes into more detail, or a Zoom link to a webinar, whatever it may be. So make sure that the actual copy is short and punchy. That leads me into CTAs, so calls to action. So making sure that you've got people who land on the email, they go to your website, because then they can explore more, they can get more information, and they can get in touch. So making sure your emails are littered with a whole bunch of buttons so that people can go to wherever you want them to go is really, really important. And then finally, which has sort of like, it took me a while to sort of realize this, because I used to just write all of the emails that we used to send manually. Whereas now we just repurpose a bunch of content that we already have. So we're writing blogs every month. So we write this huge, massive blog. And then what I do is I take sort of the first paragraph in that blog and use that in my EDM, just so I'm not having to redo the work. So repurposing content you already have is key to make it less of like a manual task.
Or get ChatGPT to repurpose it for you.
For sure.
Here's a blog post. Summarize this in 3 lines and rewrite it. Cool. Well, here's an example. You want to just sort of talk through some of the elements here?
Yeah, so catchy banner image straight away. And then you can see the actual copy is short and punchy. I've got some really cool graphics in there. And Start My Journey is a button that takes them to our website. We're also talking about things that people might be interested in. So like a career at 5x5 on demand, so that they can get more information as well. So that's a value add. So then you've got obviously our Instagram feed, and then that signature as well, that branded signature. So that's the type of email someone would receive if they do one of our basic contact inquiries. So we let them know that someone will be in touch, But in the meantime, here's the more information. And how we sort of gathered what to include in that more information was having a look at the previous contact inquiries that we had. And then we figured out most people are asking about a digital solution. So let's lead them to complete our briefing form. Other people are looking for a career at 5x5, and others are looking for resources. So all I had to do was just create a block on those three things. And then it sort of gives them what they're asking for before we have to go and contact them.
Yeah, cool. Love that. Yeah. So without getting bogged down into too much detail, and there are thousands of different email marketing platforms out there. The one we use, Flodesk.
Yeah.
Why do we use that, Gabs? Like, what's good about Flodesk?
It is amazing. So I have used ActiveCampaign. I've used MailChimp and Campaign Monitor. I just find those platforms so intense. Like, it's really cool. There's so much functionality to them, but they're a little bit clunky. They're not that easy to use. I was always scared to send an email because I wasn't really sure how it would look and things like that. Yeah. However, Flodesk is super, super simple to use. It's literally just a drag and drop method. It's got all the functionality that you need without it being sort of overwhelming. And the best thing about it is it's so cheap. I think it's something like $33 a month, whereas with ActiveCampaign and Campaign Monitor, you're looking at $200 a month, where Flodesk gives you all of sort of the functionality and needs that you really want when sending out emails. Yeah,
it's a good all-round tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Other sort of like external tools that are tied into the email marketing process. Talk us through these.
Yeah, so one thing that I love is the HubSpot blog. So they have got so many resources, and I still look at these to this day. So many resources on how to be successful with email marketing. So they've got blogs like 50 of the best email subjects, or how to boost click-through rate and things like that. So they've got some really cool resources that you can go and have a look at. Canva is my best friend. So that's how I create all of those cool little graphics that you can see in our EDMs. Analytics, obviously looking at the data to sort of make informed decisions moving forward with our email campaigns. Zapier is used, so to connect the forms on our site to flow into Flodesk, and same with our meta ads. So that's just a little connector tool that we use. I know every digital agency talks about this, but ChatGPT is amazing, makes life so much easier to be able to sort of like build out the content on your EDMs. Yeah. And then finally is WordPress. So you're sending out these emails. You want to make sure you've got a schmicko looking site that people are going to go to and engage with, and eventually sort of like reach out and sort of get in touch in terms of using your services or buying your products as well.
Cool. All part of the digital marketing journey. So we spoke about automation before. Yeah. This example here was someone who's opted in for one of the PDFs.
On our Facebook. So what happens is with automation, so someone will opt in or download our PDF, and then they'll go into this workflow. So basically what happens is in the workflow, they get sent the initial email. So that email has the PDF download and any other resources that we want to plug. And then what you do is you do a time delay. So what we've opted in is for 1 a week. So the next 7 days, you don't send something, and then on the 7th day, what you're going to do is send an email campaign. So what we've opted in for, I think it's case studies next. So they get another email after the 7 days, just about our on demand. So providing them with value. So these webinars recording. Yep. Wait 7 days, you get to know the team a little bit better. So we've opted in to add a bit about the team because they're starting to get to know 5x5 at this point. So we thought we'd put some faces to the names. We then get them to do a quiz on our website. So that's sort of drawing them to start to interact with our website. And then finally, sending them all of the case studies that we've got. So showing the amazing work that we do and pretty much plugging why someone would want to sign up with 5x5. So once that sort of workflow ends, they just then go into our monthly cycle of sending our digital dose or our webinar promo emails as well.
Yeah, so, and this this is like a super simple automation. You can get really sophisticated with this stuff.
Yeah, you can. And like that has saved so much time. So there was a little bit of heavy lifting at the beginning, obviously just creating all of these emails, but then you don't have to worry about it. Once it's set up, you know that your database is being interacted with, and you don't have to manually every week send an email. So the automation is definitely something I would highly recommend doing with your emails.
A couple of parting shots from me. Weekdays, still the best for hitting send. Apparently Tuesday's where it's at from an email perspective. Best cut through for open rates. And just another thing, like make sure you're checking on this thing in terms of what the actual email looks like from a display perspective. If you're using the native Gmail app on your phone or the Mail app on your iOS or the Android equivalent. And then consistency is key. Like how many years have we been at this for now, Gabs?
Nearly 20.
Yeah. How big is our list? What's the latest record count?
Our list is currently sitting at about 5,200.
Yeah, so it's not like a massive list, right? But every time that we communicate with it, it simulates some sort of activity out there in the world. It's keeping us front of mind. It has been a journey. We're like, it's sometimes it's been a little bit on, sometimes been a little bit off. But the key here is just consistency. What about your parting shots, Gabs?
Yeah, so build a quality database. It's not about how many people you've got in your database. It's the quality of subscribers you've got. You want to make sure it's people that are actually going to engage with you. There's no point saying I've got a 10,000 database when only 2 or 3 people open your emails. So quality is key. Save time by repurposing content you've already created. Same with those automations. There's a little bit of work to be done at the beginning, but then it just saves you so much time in the long run. And make sure your emails have purpose and value. Again, just making sure that you're giving stuff away. Like, don't hold back. Don't feel like it's a detriment to you to give stuff away. That's how people are going to engage with you.
Yeah.
You're going to build trust with those people as well. And then the last one, I should have put another word in here, is take calculated risks. So like at the end of the day, you do what's going to be best for your business. But remember, people their inboxes are so full with junk. So you want to stand out from the crowd in the best possible way.
That looks like that's about it. So cool to have everyone on here today. Can we give Gabs a big round of applause? You're amazing, Gabs.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining in.